sale here. This is Stones and Rocks Part 3 while I clean out my container, so I thought I might as well share what I've done on it. This is another one of that. Do you remember the previously I showed you down through here, my postcard that I bought, and I transferred it onto Lutradur. This is another Lutradur piece, Lutradur, L-U-T-R-U-D-U-R. People ask me, and you can see the fibre in it, and I've sprayed it with a colour, and then I've transferred this image, which I printed onto TAP, transfer artist paper, and then iron it onto the surface. And this is a really good one, and then I carved it with my soldering iron. So that's another one all ready for some reason. And another piece I just pulled out was a sheet of felt, black felt, nothing special. I put fusible webbing on, which you can see here. And then I sprinkled metallic flakes all over the surface and ironed them under Glad Bake, under baking paper, so they adhere to the surface. And I haven't put lots, I could fill the whole lot up. I've also done a bit of stitching to work into it. So a metallic sort of background becomes quite exciting. You can block it out or cut bits out or change it, or it'd be really good to put a grid over the top. And then you sort of see bits shining underneath, or if you're doing things like stained glass windows, the metallic flakes are really good to give that sort of an effect. So that's that one. And this one's not a stones and bricks, but it is a Pohutukawa tree, which I copied onto, I coated the surface with Inkade, and then I copied it onto scrim. If you can see the scrim, I printed it on cotton scrim, and that's my image, and stitched it, and I've put it on the back of an old piece of drawing, you know, watercolor paper of some sort. But it's quite effective, and the Inkade helps it not to keep for the image to come. Inkade's really fabulous for printing with. So that's my Pohutukawa, and then a few more coming here. I've got this time I've used my flower stitch foot, and I've used it on Kunin felt. And on the Kunin felt, I've put lots of bits of thread scraps, like this sort of thing, thread scraps, but only I've used the black, those colours, the stone colours. And over the top of it, I put a sheer polyester fabric, and then I stitched flower stitch feet all over. You can see the shades. And I used my Stonehaven-y colours. And then I burnt it back with the heat gun, I think, on this one. So it's a nice piece, which again, you could cut segments of or trap it or keep it. And it's always good to experiment and do larger sort of pieces that then you can use later whenever you want them. Nothing's ever wasted. And then I've got another one here where I've got Kunin felt, and again, I can see some flakes. And I think this was part of sort of some stones or bricks or something that I was doing, and then I attacked it with my heat gun. So you've got sort of lacy bits again, which can be utilised however they take your fancy. And then we'll just come back to here. You may remember I said that you could, if you put all your bits and pieces and join them together and stitch them up like I have on some of those earlier pieces, and I've put two together and stitched them around the outside. So this could be a great little bookmark. I've stitched a cord. You could go into a little book that you might make, or, you know, wherever you want it, of course, as usual. And there's the flower stitch feet around the edges attached to there, so they make a good buttonhole cover. And then I've got another one, which is scrim. You can see the scrim on the back, and on the top I put all sorts of stuff, so it's quite heavy. And then it's got fusible, I painted it with mixed medium, and when it dried I stitched all over it. I haven't attacked it with my heat gun, but I could. But it's another piece that you could use, you know, again, the usual, taking bits and pieces. You've got the stone shapes and so on. You might just want that to put into something else, and so on. And then I've got here my usual sort of things I like to do, which is to weave. And I've woven pre-felts here, or flimsies. On the back you can see where I've woven. That's some that's had mulberry bark and other things like that, or bits of silk, sari silk. And then I have stitched all over it with a little flecky thread that I had this time. And on the top I've had a little bit of stitching that's done with fibres, silk fibres, on water soluble, and I've used it to make a layer onto that. So you know, it's just for interest or effect, it could become some part of something else. And this is another woven one. This is just a sampler that I was playing around with. So on my woven one, here's perhaps the beginning of it. This one hasn't got much going on it yet, but it could be added to. So it's got some silk, some sari ribbon and other bits and pieces, and the pre-felts. And then this one here, you see I've used my embellisher. So on the back I've used gauze and let it come through for that texture that I like. A little bit of knitting, some gimp play, some stitch, and chain, you know, just making a twisted chain with your hands and putting them all down, so, and some velvet down the middle. So what you're doing is creating texture and, you know, as I said, things. Again, I could cut that if I wanted to. So I hope that's given you a few ideas, and we'll see you again another time. Bye.